Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just give people another 15, 20 seconds or so in case they've been a little slower to get into the webinar, but then we'll get cracking. Thank you for coming along today. My name's David Forder. I'm CEO at Sentia, and we're a CRM sales enablement software business. Since about just a little bit of background, and let me move along to our first slide. Since about 2003, I've been implementing CRM systems across a whole lot of organizations and run several large teams of sales staff. And I've seen it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I've worked across the chemical industry, wholesaling, aerospace, service businesses, and all seem to have issues with adoption of CRM especially. I appreciate everyone joining us today. It's really difficult times with COVID, no matter where you are in the world. But I think that situation means that with so many of us in our teams working remotely, a CRM is more critical than ever. Across my time, that's sort of 17 years or so, I've experienced everything that can go wrong with a software implementation and also what to do when it does. Generally speaking, and I'm sure you would all agree, staff tend to resist using CRMs, and many have really good reasons for resisting, which I'll touch on some today. I could talk for hours about my experiences, but I won't, I promise. What I'll do is try to crystallize these down to a handful of simple steps that can turn around these staff adoption issues for you and begin to generate the sorts of returns that from your CRM that your business deserves. I'm going to run through some steps. The steps are simple, but they're certainly not without some challenges. So today, what I'm going to talk about is 4 or 5 things here. So firstly, the costs. Why should you be concerned about the low CRM adoption in your business? Why is it that users say, look, we're just not interested, we're not going to participate? How to get it right first time. So if you haven't yet leapt in and purchased a CRM, I've got a whole lot of information for you about how to not make the mistakes up front. Then my 7 steps to triple CRM adoption, and I've seen them, I have living proof of that, and certainly have driven CRM adoption from somewhere south of 30% up to 90% plus. And then a few words about a better way at the end. I certainly stay within the hour, I'll probably be a little under. If you have any questions along the way, we have a chat box there which is private and a Q&A tab. So feel free to enter any questions at all, and I'll answer them at the end, or else my colleagues will get you an answer. All right, so why care? Why is CRM adoption such an issue? Assuming your firm has a CRM in place now, and around 85% of businesses do, it's no doubt it was a significant investment for your company. For many enterprise-grade CRM systems, businesses can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on subscriptions. Seat costs range from hundreds of dollars a month per staff person up to a couple of $1,000s for some of the leading packages per seat for every user. Obviously, it often requires further investment to customize that CRM for your team. I've run several firms myself that have spent well over 7 figures a year on their enterprise software. The issue with poor adoption is that businesses can't get a good return on this software investment if users, especially sales users, don't embrace it, and they usually don't. As you can see from the chart on the screen, growth in spending on CRM software is skyrocketing, while at the same time sales productivity is some of its lowest levels ever. Does this mean that CRM doesn't work? I don't think so. There's some very solid research from IBM and others that show when a CRM is properly adapted and adopted, it will grow sales by 27% or more and drive real productivity savings, 30 to 40%. So what's going on? The reality is that 40% of salespeople still prefer to use spreadsheets. 26% of sales users say that they'll use their CRM every single day. Now that's an average, but even at the high end of some of the research I've seen, it's about 40%, which means there's somewhere between 60 and 73% of salespeople refusing to make use of the CRM they're provided. There's a failure there. We found 22% of salespeople didn't really know what CRM was for. Companies are spending a huge amount on software, and the staff that should be making use of this and benefiting are simply opting out. So, why is it? Why is it that sales teams in particular hate CRM so much? It's a pretty simple answer, and the background on the slide you're looking at now says it all. What's in it for me? Everyone asks that. If we're all asked to do something, particularly in the workplace, we think to ourselves, well, what's in it for me? Why would I invest the time and energy in learning this product? And salespeople are no different. There's a whole lot of reasons why salespeople think CRM doesn't really offer them very much. The first one's oversight. A sales role in a business, and some of your businesses may be a little different, but across all that I've seen, salespeople are the only ones that experience the sort of oversight, the sort of management oversight that we're all aware of. They're asked to report all of their activity, who they've met with, where they're going, sometimes geotagging, how they're performing. They are told when CRM comes in that it's really all about managing their performance and knowing if they're performing. It's not strange that salespeople push back on that and aren't very happy about that oversight. Their data entry is a big factor in CRM. Staff in particular all feel that a CRM means hours and hours of data entry, and they're often right. A recent study found 27% of salespeople spend more than an hour a day on data entry. That's 5 hours a week, amounting to around about 6 weeks every year, staring at a screen and either entering data or making sure the data is clean. The designer CRM certainly doesn't help its case with salespeople. Software companies are great at selling to finance and marketing management and senior management. And as a result, CRM software in particular tends to focus on data-heavy screens, lots of analytics, dashboards and things, not so much on usability by sales users. For the sales staff, who are usually people-to-people, person-to-person interactions is their strong point, this type of user design with really complex, complicated screens just doesn't fit. The other factor is app hopping. We ask our sales teams to use a lot of apps every single day, well, on their phones and on their laptops. This is just one more. So now they have to jump between all sorts of individual one-off applications, email, spreadsheets, which they're still using, and now a CRM app as well to look up contacts that may well be in their Outlook address book. It's just easier for them to push back and say no. So if you yet to have a CRM, and as I mentioned, 80% of businesses have one now, but there's a long tail that hasn't yet leapt in and dove into the water. It's critical that when you do purchase your CRM, that you get it right first time. You can do a lot to make sure that adoption doesn't become an issue for you in the future. And I'll move on to say how you can resolve that adoption issues when you have it. But to get it right first time, these are the sorts of things you need to think about clearly. The first one's inclusion. When you're going to select a CRM package, it's really easy for a finance function or possibly a marketing function along with IT to do the investigation of what CRM package they're going to use. It's critical that you include all business functions in this decision-making process. Drag in salespeople, particularly the ones that are thought leaders amongst sales teams. Get them involved in working groups to look at the options around CRM and get them to specify the sorts of things that's important to them. It's usual for a brief to be prepared by finance and marketing about just what's needed in a CRM. But they'll usually make a guess about what the sales team would like to see rather than actually garner the information about this from the actual sales reps, not even necessarily sales management. So make sure you include everyone in your business in the CRM requirements briefing. Do lots of research. It's really simple to limit yourself to the 2 or 3 market leaders that spring to mind, as Salesforce.com or a NetSuite or perhaps HubSpot, and there's 3 or 4 others. Do some research based on what you've determined by being inclusive and getting the whole business to prepare the brief. Do lots of research on what's out there. There's a lot of choices in the CRM space. There's around about 1,100 options for CRMs now, not all enterprise grade, but all of them with adding some value. Make sure you research them, and by researching them, I mean do lots of internet searches, read user reviews, Go on forums where salespeople in particular are making complaints about large packages, and try and get an impression of which ones tend to get less of those complaints. You'll probably not find any CRM package, including our office, Sentia, which I'll talk briefly about later. You'll probably not find any complaints at all, but certainly there's some that garner more complaints from sales users than others. And you can avoid a lot of the problems if you're across those when you're selecting a CRM for the first time. It's also important that when you're going to leap in and install a CRM, that you put aside sufficient budget and time to configure it for your company. It's really important it gets customized for you. There's no CRM that I've come across in 17 years that is just going to work really well out of the box. They just don't exist. So make sure that you allow budget to customize it. You'll have software salespeople coming to you saying, look, we have the latest and greatest application on our CRM, and you can pick it up and push it into your sales team and all will be well. They'll all make those claims, and none of them are accurate. The CRMs will not work out of the box, and so it's critical that you customize it and configure it for your business. If you don't, you'll end up with the industry average 27% daily user adoption by sales teams. And onboard your team. Make sure there's sufficient training. A lot of the major CRM packages have really good training resources, but it does pay to get someone in because you've configured it, hopefully, for your business. It really does pay to get someone in and do some specific training for the CRM package you've chosen with your configurations. It's not an enormous expense to do this, but it'll be well worthwhile. Finally, enforcement. It's important that all of your team needs to be on the same system. When you've purchased a suitable CRM and you've done your research properly and you've been very inclusive, and then you've onboarded your team and trained them, there's really no excuse for them not using it. And it's important that you enforce its use so that it wasn't a wasted expense. And why do this? The returns from a properly implemented CRM are enormous. I've seen numbers ranging from 600% to 800%, even higher returns on investment on CRM, when you can generate those sorts of sales growth and productivity growth, as I mentioned earlier. So it is really critical that you get it right first time, but it will give you an enormous payback. So put some work into making the right choice if you haven't already jumped in and purchased a CRM. So you've got one. You're on this webinar probably because you already have one, and you may have some user adoption issues. I've yet to find a business, except probably for a couple of our customers, who are really happy with their daily average use. We get users of Sentia, which is an application on top of the Salesforce platform. Our daily average use for sales teams is 93, 94%, and we monitor that. But that's pretty rare. So if you have a CRM now and you really want to improve that adoption up to 90% plus, that daily use, to get those sorts of returns I talked about, what are the things you need to do? So I've got 7 steps to follow. And depending on your own situation, if you have a business where the CRM is just not working for you, then I urge you to go through each of these steps really slowly and in detail with your business, and you will end up with a great result at the end. If your CRM is not doing too badly and you joined today to get a bit of an overview on what could be better, then take what you will from these 7 steps. But I'm going to run through each of them in a reasonable amount of detail. So the first one's honesty. Step 1 is honesty, and it's always hard. Having run several large corporates in Asia Pacific and the US, it's always really difficult for senior management to make the honest call that we got it wrong when we installed some enterprise software. Often, as I said, it's a 7-figure investment. It's a lot of money. And to turn around and say, look, it's just not working, and we need to rethink this system, it's a big call. And it's often easier just to go along and let momentum carry you forward and put up with lousy user adoption and no returns on that investment. So I urge you to, if you want to drive a good ROI for that software spend, these are the steps you need to follow. And the first one is definitely honesty. Like any 12-step plan, the first step is admit you have a problem. So you need to admit that there is ROI available to you on software, but you're not delivering it, and you're not receiving it, and that there's some things you can do to fix that. Part two of the honesty stage is to accept there's going to be a cost to fix it. So there's going to be the cost of new software or customization of your software or whatever's in a couple of subsequent steps. We'll go through that. But the point is, it's going to cost money and it's going to take some time from certain team members in your group. And you need to realize that up front and put that cash aside. As I said, it will be worth it. It's not this, what you're going to be doing by following these steps is delivering an enormous return on your software investment. So it's worth it, but you've got to put the cash up front at the start. You can't attack this problem piecemeal. So admit you have a problem, recognize you're going to need spend, you're going to need time to resolve it, and be honest with your whole team. Make sure that you get the whole company together and do a mea culpa. Basically say, look, we implemented this CRM X years ago and it's been a mistake. It was either incorrect or it was poorly purchased or it's not meeting our needs or it simply needs work to make sure it does meet our needs. But do that up front and tell the whole team that. It's important you drive a step change in their impression about the CRM and enterprise software in general. If you don't do that with the staff as well and own up to the problem, then anything you do down the track is equally going to be blocked. Even if it's the most amazing CRM software they could ever see in their lives, they'll have a set against it. So it's important you drive a step change in perceptions in the business and actually say to them, look, we got it wrong. We're going to fix it. There's several steps we're going to follow. We've put the budget aside to fix it, but we need your help to do this. And then I guarantee if you can include the right thought leaders in your business, you'll make some progress. So the second step is consultation, a bit like inclusion when you're selecting a CRM for the first time. Enlist groups of users in your business to diagnose the problems and to ensure future buy-in. This is, as I was just saying, this is actually really critical. It won't matter what changes you make if people's impressions and feelings about the software are negative to begin with. So you have to draw a line in the sand and say that was the old thing and this will be the new thing, and we want you guys to help us define what we need in the future. So you need to consult, establish groups of users, ideally those that are most reluctant to use your current CRM. We'll all be able to sit down with our sales management and say, look, who are the diehards, who are the stick in the muds that just refuse to use the CRM? Who are the salespeople particularly, or inside salespeople or other users? Who are the thought leaders amongst our staff? Who do all the other staff look to set their impressions and emotions and feelings about the software? Identify those people and get them in working groups to identify the problems of the current system and to get together a list of things that clearly define where it needs improvement. Most importantly, once you've done this process, and as I said at the start, you may have a CRM where you'd like to improve your adoption a little bit, or you may have a CRM where you're getting virtually no value from it whatsoever and you need to throw it out and start again. Regardless of that, when you do this consultation stage, after you've got everyone, particularly the thought leaders, to define what's wrong with your current system, get them to commit up front that if you resolve these things, if we go down this process and implement these steps and get to the point where the problems are solved, they will buy in. They will fully commit to adopting this changed CRM or this changed piece of software. That bit is critical. I can't tell you how important it is. You need them to buy in publicly to say, yes, if you invest the cash and we resolve these things together and we get the software to the point where it does all these things or doesn't do these things if there's issues, then we'll support you and we will make use of this package. If you want to get that ROI I talked about, 600-800% or so on your spend every single year through sales growth and productivity, get their buy-in when they've been part of the process of identifying the weaknesses with the current system. All right, so what's next? Reconsider. So you've managed to be honest with everybody. You've got a team together to identify the weaknesses in your current CRM. They've bought in, they've said, yes, if we get all these things solved and whatever we move to in the future, if it answers these concerns we have, we will use it. We'll make sure it works for us, we'll make sure it works for you, and you will get a ROI on the software. Then step 3 is look really hard at what you're currently using. It's always easier to stick with a current package and think, well, we'll do band-aid measures to get it working. That's not the right answer. Reconsider your current CRM. As I said, I've been CEO of a couple of very, very large businesses. In one case, I had more than $1 billion in revenue. And I had to walk away from a software investment that we were investing more than 7 figures a year in this software. And it was a market-leading product. That doesn't matter. As I said, the average user adoption of CRM across the US is 27%. So 73% of sales staff in particular are saying, no, we're not going to use it. That is, most of those users are using the 3 or 4 major packages in the marketplace. So something's going wrong. So if you look at whatever your current CRM is, and the team has said, this doesn't meet our needs, and you don't think, even with more investment, you can get it to meet your needs, then switch. There's a fallacy of sunk costs, which you'll see on the slide in front of me. The point is that all of us feel this. When you've invested a whole lot of time and money and emotions supporting a current CRM, to then throw that away and start again is a really difficult thing to do, but it is critical. If the CRM you have now just is never going to get there. And I can't say if any one package is better than another, because every one of your businesses is different. And so it's really critical that you look at your company, feedback from your users, and say, well, is product X going to be the answer, yes or no? If it's no, then move on and look at fresh options. Once you've been completely honest and you consulted your team, don't be afraid to reconsider your current CRM choice. Unless there's something out there that will make it suddenly amazing, move on and look at other options. Okay, the 4th step is configure, customize, or reconfigure your current CRM if you have one. As we said at the start, the honesty stage means being honest and saying, well, we're going to need to spend money and time to get it working. If you've looked at your CRM and you think it can be made to work for your business, or if you've found one through the research stage I mentioned that looks like it can be made to work for your business, I guarantee that to get it to work for your company, you're going to have to customize it or configure it. No matter what any vendors told you, none of the CRMs out of the box are going to work for you. Salesforce.com, which is an amazing platform, and we're a Salesforce partner, so I can't recommend it too highly as a platform, will certainly need customizing and configuring, and there's a whole community of users, empowered users, who can go and customize that platform for themselves. So Salesforce.com recognizes. A whole lot of the other packages won't be as honest, and they won't tell you that you need to spend a lot of money configuring and customizing. But when you look at CRM software, you kind of need to think, okay, this isn't really application software. This is a platform that we can build on to make the thing work for my business, for our businesses. And that's going to take cash. So do that configuration or customization now in step 4. You've consulted extensively with the team. You've looked at your options. You've decided whether your current CRM can work or not. Now you need to spend the money to make sure it will work and meet those requirements that the consultation stage threw up for you. You can expect it to cost you about as much as you pay for the CRM. If it's a SaaS model and you're paying subscriptions, I often get the question, well, how much is this going to cost me? I've already paid a fortune for the CRM to begin with. It's going to typically, it will cost you about 2 years subscriptions on average. If you've got one now and it only needs a bit of tweaking to make it work for your thought leaders that I mentioned earlier, then, great, it won't be so bad. If you have one now and it's a bit of a disaster, but it's still the right platform for your business, then expect to spend about 2 years subscriptions, or about as much as the software purchase costs that you've paid if it's a hosted CRM application. Investing that money will make sure you get that ROI. And I know I keep harping on the ROI you can expect from CRM, otherwise why be on the webinar? It will generate you an enormous return if you can get your team using it and using it to full effect. But you have to get your team using it. It won't help to simply buy the software, throw it in the business and let it flounder. So do this configuration, do this customization, And I'll talk a couple of other points I'll make later reflect on this same sort of area. Okay, step 5, training. Now, training is something that it always falls towards the end of a software implementation process. You've done a ton of work, hopefully following my steps, you've done a ton of work picking the right package. You've done a ton of work consulting with your team and making sure they're on board and they've identified the needs. You've found the right package. You've found application development engineers to help you customize it for your business or configure it for your business. And you've now got this wonderful CRM package that meets all of your needs. You have to train your team. Even the ones who threw up the requirements, it's not enough to simply say, okay, here it is, this is what you asked for, go for it. It's also not enough to, a lot of the major platforms, again, Salesforce.com being a case in point, have amazing online training facilities. They have Trailhead, they have lots of online learning modules. It's good background, but remember, you've configured and customized your CRM for your own business. So the training needs to be similarly customized. Invest some cash in getting a trainer to train your team on the package that you've built for them using one of the leading platforms. It will pay off. So make sure they're professionally trained. The other point about training is don't forget new staff. We all have staff turnover. We all onboard new people. And I can't think of a single company that as part of the onboarding process offers them some formal training in their CRM or their ERP or other enterprise software. It doesn't happen. They're asked to sit beside someone for an afternoon and be shown the system. So over time, as your staff turn over, you're getting more and more staff come on board that really don't know the integral features of your products, your CRM, and are left to discover it on their own. And that tends to mean over 2 or 3 years, you could end up with a third of your users who really aren't that wedded to the CRM. So make sure you do get them onboarded properly as well, and make sure that when the package is rolling out the first time, everyone gets really good level of training on that system. It's critical for another reason. At the last step, step 7, and I'll sort of steal my own thunder, we're going to talk about enforcement and how important enforcement is. If you haven't trained your team, it's really unfair to then beat them up for not using the product. So that's another reason why training is really critical. The next step is one that I think is equally important, but again is tended to skip over. So you've found a CRM, you've consulted, you've had it customized for your own business. You've trained your staff clearly and carefully. You need to now take a step back, get those thought leaders together, and this may only take a couple of hours, but have a reassessment of what you've ended up with. Is it now right? Does it now meet their needs or does it not? And I'm not talking with reassessment, I'm not talking about a complete rebuild. It may be that it needs slightly more customization or configuring. It hasn't gone quite right. It might be perfect as it is, but have that reassessment stage. Again, get buy-in from those user groups that you used in step 2. Get them to look at what you've developed with their input, and sorry, I was a bit slow on the slide there, and get them to commit that, yes, this looks like we've achieved nirvana. We've made it. We've made the product that you all wanted. It looks like it's going to work. It meets management needs. It meets finance needs and marketing needs. Based on your feedback, it looks like it's working for the sales team. It looks like it works for every other part of our business. So you all buy in, don't you? Yes or no? And when you get that buy-in at this point, if it means you have to spend a little bit more money to customize it a little further, then do that, because you're almost there. You're on the home straight. It will be unusual for your team to pull together a brief when you're configuring or customizing a CRM. It will be highly unusual for you to get that brief, for them to get all of those requirements right first time. It would be equally unusual for a software developer who's doing the configuration for you, or for the CRM company themselves who are doing it for you. It would be really unusual for them to get it right first time. So this reassessment stage is really just an auditing of, did we get what we wanted? Secondly, did we get what we really needed? Did we say what we really needed? Or did we just get someone's best guess at that? And then if it's not quite right, invest just that little more money getting it correct. So at the end of step 6 of this process, you're at the point where you've got a CRM, you've got your whole team on board loving it. It meets all of their needs, it meets your company's needs, and you've trained them all in its use. Because the next step is where most businesses, they just don't either want to do this or are morally able to do this because they haven't done all these prior steps. So the last one, which I prefaced before, is enforcement. I find it incredible that companies will spend, US businesses spend $650 billion a year on enterprise software. Just the CRM space alone is close to $50 billion now, the marketplace. And most companies don't force staff to use this software product. If you purchase staff cell phones and they just said, no, we don't want to use that, we're going to use our own, you wouldn't tolerate that. If you purchased them, allowed them the use of company cars, and they said, no, we prefer our own car, we're just going to leave it sit in the driveway, you wouldn't tolerate that. So when you invest a lot of money in enterprise software, it's really important that you insist your team use it every single day if it's a part of their job function, if they need to, such as in a sales team. A CRM is a package for sales users. It's finance and marketing get a lot of value from a CRM, but at the end of the day, it's about customer relationship management. And the teams in your business that do the customer relationship management typically are sales or inside sales or customer service. So if they're the ones pushing back and only 27% of them are using it every day, then it's a problem. So I'm the first one to say, if you have a CRM that's lackluster or it doesn't quite fit your sales model or your business model, then yeah, it's really tough to force them into using it. But if you've gone through these 6 steps so far and provided what they needed, something that met your needs and the company's needs, then you need to enforce its use. You need to be saying this is not negotiable. And there's lots of ways that I'm happy to talk for hours about how I've managed to get systems in previous companies used. The best way is to give them software that adds value. Remember the what's in it for me. But it is critical that you enforce its use. And it's more than reasonable that you do that if you've created the package the right way. So don't continue to accept reports outside of the CRM. Don't allow them to have detailed records in Outlook or elsewhere or on Excel spreadsheets. An Excel spreadsheet is so insecure. As a case in point, I had a business in Asia Pacific, and we operated 60 separate sales teams across 60 separate brands. It was an outsourcing sales agency. And in the early days, this was long before we had a CRM in the early 2000s, everyone was using Excel spreadsheets in the business to run these teams. The problem with Excel spreadsheets is they tend to reside on someone's laptop, and when they leave, they either wipe the laptop, or it was their own in some cases, or sometimes they'll be in their contact address book on their phone. So when a salesperson leaves, you don't want them taking all of your intellectual property away with you. You don't want them taking the names of the contacts at your customers. You may have the account name, you may even have a buyer's name at the account, but do you have John on the front counter, or do you have Fred in the warehouse at that company? No, the salesperson has that information because they're the ones doing the calls. So don't let them, when they leave you, don't let them take away all that intellectual property that you've paid them a wage to go and generate and build. It's important to get stored in a CRM, hence the word customer relationship management system. So insist that you've provided this tool. It's a good tool by now, and they all have to use it. You can insist in various ways. As I said, don't accept information in any other format. But make sure you collect all this information, and not so much for oversight, but to protect your business moving forward. As in the past, a long time ago, 20 odd more years ago, I was in a sales role and I took over from someone else and ended up with nothing as a handover. I had a customer list, but no information on who they visited at each customer. So I had to turn up looking very unprofessional and say, look, I replaced John, who do I speak to here? So don't let your business be a victim of that sort of thing. And don't have false security. Don't think because you have a CRM that information is being captured. It's only being captured if your team are using it every single day. So make sure that you enforce their use and it's not negotiable. I've probably harped on that plenty. All right, so just to recap, and then we'll talk about a better way at the end. There's 7 steps to tripling CRM adoption. And as I said at the start, your business may have a CRM and it's used fairly widely and you joined today just to get some tips. Or it may be that you have a CRM and no one uses it and it's pathetic and you're rethinking. Or it may be you have one and you know it's not really used and you're thinking, well, is there something we can do? If it's the last case, you have a CRM, it's not really being used and you want to fix for it, then speak to us. But if you want to throw it out and start again, these are definitely the 7 steps that you need to follow. First one's honesty. Admit you have a problem and that you put aside the time and money to fix it. The second one, which is probably the most important, is consultation, and I touched on why. Get user groups together from all parts of your business. Get particularly the noisy users, the ones that are thought leaders amongst their peers, and get them in groups consulting on what the CRM should be doing for you that it's not. And not only what it should be doing, but importantly, what in the future they would like it to be able to do for them. Third step is reconsider. Look at what your current selection is and say, well, is it ever going to meet these needs? Is there any way we can move it without an enormous amount of cost from what the team have said they need through to what we need in the future? Then reconfigure and customize it for your business. Make those changes if it's the platform you're going to go with. Remember that I said enterprise software is sold as software application, but they're really software platforms that you can do things with. Train your team and particularly make sure that training in the CRM, this new CRM, is part of your onboarding process. So as new staff come on board, they don't start with old habits that they bring from some other business into yours. Reassess at the end of this process and say, did we deliver on what our team needs? Is it really what they need? And finally, enforce its use. You can, with a clear moral conscience, enforce the use of a package that's right for your team and will add value to them. Something that when they ask the question, what's in it for me? They can say, okay, well, this, and this. These are the reasons we have this software package. It will help you do your job better. It will help you hit your targets, as well as the company benefit. So is there a better way? So given those 7 steps, happy to talk about any of them separately with you if you have some questions. Is there a better way? Is there a way to take the CRM you have now and resolve the user adoption issues without throwing out the baby with the bathwater? As I said, typically modern CRM packages, all of the major platforms, perform pretty well for finance users and marketing users. They don't do badly for senior management, although finance tends to massage the dashboards and analytics for senior management. Where they fail tends to be other users, whether it's customer service users or sales users or inside sales, depending on your business. That's where they fall down, which is kind of ironic because CRM is for them primarily, not for finance and marketing primarily. So to get that ROI I keep talking about, you need to resolve the user adoption issues with your sales team. And I face this. I think, as I said at the start, I've had 17 years of implementing CRMs across large sales teams. And I was aware of this problem and I thought, well, what I need to do is develop a package. What we need to do, because there was nothing in the market, is develop an application. And in this case, it was for my own 60 sales teams I ran, that would answer the user adoption concerns. It would add value to sales users. It would hide away the bits of the CRM that they don't need, the bits that finance and marketing need. And it would be a retro fix. So regardless of what CRM you had, you could use this thing, which we branded Sentia, and it would fit the needs of the sales user without having to change the CRM on the back end and hide away the bits of the CRM that salespeople don't need. So we developed Sentia. And Sentia is a smart layer that sits on top of your CRM, doesn't change it. It's integrated natively with Salesforce.com, but it will speak to loads of other CRM packages, accesses the data in the CRM, and then presents for sales users a whole set of functionalities that they need. So clearly demonstrating what's in it for them. So basically, and I'm only going to speak for another minute, I promise. It's a smart layer that acts as a virtual advisor for salespeople. So it acts as an assistant, an analyst, and a coach. It surfaces for sales users just what they need to know today to do their job. which customers to call, which leads to contact, and in what order to do these things to make the most money. So Sentia offers a rich layer of machine learning, automation, a simple user interface based on cards that we're all pretty familiar with from social media. It informs salespeople what to do every day in what order to make the most money. So every single activity they need to do today is dragged out of the CRM, surfaced for the rep every morning, and scored by the value to that rep. So if it's an account, it will be scored saying, contact these guys because there's more business to be won at this account. If it's a lead, it'll be scored a different way. And it will say, look, these are the leads that are more than likely ready to convert for you. So contact them first. It will surface win-back opportunities. It'll say, look, these are some leads you haven't contacted in the last 60 days or 90 days. Don't forget about them. It does all of this automatically. It watches their email for them. So it actually monitors their inbox and through the day pops up cards when they receive emails that are important. So it makes a decision that, look, these emails are from customers. You need to see these now. These emails are from leads. You need to get back to these guys ASAP. These people responded to your email campaign that Sentia makes really simple to set up. So the salesperson can get on with their day. In my case, on my Sentia system, I check my inbox in the morning. I tend to check it mid-afternoon, and that's about it. So I don't have to stare at Outlook all day long because I know Sentia is watching my email. And if I get one that matters, it will raise it. Just two other things it does is it's a dedicated personal analyst. So it tracks salespeople across a load of KPIs and tells them how they're tracking against their targets and against other team members. So doing lots of benchmarking. And finally, it's a coach. We've integrated a community of sales users into Sentia, and it will throw up a whole lot of ways that salespeople can get better at their job. Hence the term virtual digital advisor, where it operates as a virtual assistant, a virtual analyst, and a virtual coach. And enough about Sentia. It would install onto your own CRM, or it comes with a Salesforce.com CRM on the back end, included for no extra cost. So it's a solution to the user adoption issues by sales teams. If you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater and drop your current CRM completely. So in summary, if you do follow those 7 steps, I guarantee you'll have a system that will generate the sorts of ROIs that all of the major firms promise you can get. If you don't follow the 7 steps, you're likely to not get an ROI on your software spend. It's an unfortunate fact. We can help you. Happy to take any questions in chat, and we'll answer them in a few minutes. And yeah, I wish you well with your own CRM program, whether you have one or are looking at one. Happy to advise. You can reach out to me on the email on the screen, david@sentiacorp.com, with any questions at all. You certainly won't get a hard sell on Sentia, but if you're interested in information on Sentia, you head to our website, sentiacorp.com. We have a very active blog that you can get to from the website, or we'll email you after the webinar anyway, with a ton of information about CRM and adoption and sales tips. So thank you for the time now. I'll check the chat box. If you haven't left any questions and you want to head off, that's fine too. You'll get a recording of this webinar in the next few days anyway. And thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it.